Agnes was a strong and determined woman. Life had not been kind to her, but she always found a way to rise above her struggles. After losing her husband at a young age, Agnes was left to raise her two children, May and Leo, all on her own. She worked tirelessly to ensure they had everything they needed. She took odd jobs, sacrificed her comfort, and spent sleepless nights making sure her children could have a better future. Her efforts paid off. May and Leo grew up to be incredibly successful. May was a sharp-minded businesswoman, running her own company, while Leo climbed the corporate ladder to become a well-respected executive. Their hard work brought wealth and fame, and they bought a grand mansion where they could all live together with their mother. The mansion was everything Agnes could have dreamed of, large, beautiful, and filled with all the luxuries one could imagine. It had rooms so big that her voice would echo, a garden with flowers of every color, and a kitchen stocked with more food than she could ever eat. May and Leo made sure Agnes had everything she needed. She never lacked money, food, or anything else. But despite the luxury and comfort, Agnes was deeply lonely. May and Leo were always busy. Their jobs demanded constant travel, meetings, and long hours away from home. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, yet they were hardly ever around. Even during holidays, they would often call, apologizing for not being able to come home. Agnes tried to fill the silence in her life by helping others. She welcomed women from less privileged backgrounds into the mansion, offering them food and money. She would share her blessings generously, finding joy in seeing their smiles and gratitude. It became her routine, and for a while, it distracted her from the emptiness in her heart. But every evening, as she sat alone in the grand living room, surrounded by walls that seemed to stretch forever, the loneliness crept back in. She missed hearing May and Leo laugh. She longed to share meals with them, to talk about their lives, and to feel like a family again. "How can I live in such a big, beautiful house but feel so empty inside?" she would often wonder. Agnes knew her children loved her deeply. She could see it in the way they made sure she was comfortable and cared for. Yet, what she truly craved wasn't material things. She wanted their time, their presence, their company. Each night, as she sat by the window, watching the stars, Agnes would whisper a prayer. "I just wish they could come home, even for a little while. This house feels so cold without them." And so, Agnes waited. She kept herself busy with acts of kindness, but her heart held on to the hope that one day, May and Leo would realize that no amount of success could replace the warmth of family. The mansion might have been filled with riches, but to Agnes, it would always feel empty until her children were by her side again. As the days turned into weeks, Agnes grew more and more restless. The loneliness in the grand mansion seemed to grow heavier, pressing down on her heart. She had tried many times to talk to her children, May and Leo, about how she felt. She wanted to tell them how much their absence hurt her, how their constant busyness made her feel abandoned. But every time she tried, they would brush her off. "Mom, I have an important meeting to prepare for," May would say, typing away on her laptop. "Can we talk later?" "I'm swamped with work," Leo would add, already heading out the door. Later never came. No matter how much Agnes tried to sit them down, they always had an excuse. She would watch them leave, her heart sinking deeper into despair. One evening, after another failed attempt to speak with them, Agnes sat alone in the vast living room. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched a photograph of the three of them from years ago. In the picture, they were smiling, arms around each other, full of joy. Those were happier days, days when they weren't too busy for her. "Why did I even go through all the pain of raising them?" she whispered to herself. "I gave them everything. I sacrificed my youth, my comfort, my dreams, all so they could have a better life. And now? They don't even have time to sit and listen to me." She wiped her tears and stared out the window, her voice trembling with frustration. "Do they think money is everything? My bank account is full. The pantry is overflowing with food. But what use is any of it if I can't even spend time with my own children? I only have 2 children, not 10. Is it too much to ask for them to spare some time for me? Am I not their mother anymore? Have they replaced me with someone else?" The questions spun in her mind, tormenting her. She began to wonder if something was influencing them. Could someone be manipulating them against me? She thought. Or is it their work? Are they so consumed by their success that they've forgotten about the woman who brought them into this world? Agnes grew desperate. She began pacing the room, her thoughts racing. God help me, she prayed aloud, her voice cracking with emotion. I can't continue like this. I need your intervention, or I don't know what I'll do. They have to understand my pain, my loneliness. I'm their mother, for goodness sake. How do I get them to listen to me? How do I make them see my tears, feel my pain? The nights became unbearable. Agnes would sit by her bedroom window, staring into the darkness, her mind filled with troubling thoughts. She started imagining extreme measures to grab their attention. If they won't listen to me as their loving mother, maybe I need to take drastic steps, she thought, a wave of anger mixed with sorrow washing over her. Maybe then they'll realize how much they've hurt me. But as soon as those thoughts entered her mind, she shook her head, ashamed of herself. No, she whispered. I can't hurt them. They're still my children. But oh God, how do I make them understand? Every day she grew more confused and worried. She wanted to believe that May and Leo loved her, but their actions or lack of them made her question everything. She didn't know how much longer she could bear the silence, the loneliness, the feeling of being invisible in her own home. All I want is for them to sit with me, to talk to me, to make me feel like I still matter to them, Agnes said to herself one night. Is that too much to ask, or have I truly lost my children to the world? Agnes's heart ached with longing, her prayers becoming more desperate. She needed a way to break through to her children, to remind them of the love they once shared. But how? The answer remained just out of reach, leaving her in a storm of emotions that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. One morning, as the sun rose over the grand mansion, May and Leo prepared to sneak out, just as they always did. They had perfected the art of slipping away early, leaving before their mother Agnes could wake up and try to talk to them. They thought today would be no different. But as they approached the front door, they were in for a surprise. The door wouldn't budge. Confused, they tried the other entrances, but each one was firmly locked. Panic began to creep in. They exchanged nervous glances, wondering who could have locked all the doors. They hesitated to wake their mother, but they had no choice. Reluctantly, they knocked on her bedroom door. Agnes opened it calmly, a small smile playing on her lips. Good morning, she said, her voice steady. I see you've noticed the doors are locked. Mom, did you lock them? May asked, her tone uncertain. Yes, I did, Agnes replied firmly. Leo frowned. Why would you do that? We have important work to get to. Agnes stepped closer, her expression serious. You're not going anywhere today. If you like, you can try to fly out of the windows. But as long as I'm alive, those doors will remain locked until you listen to what I have to say. May and Leo were stunned. They had never seen their mother so determined. You two have been avoiding me for far too long, Agnes continued. Every time I try to talk to you, you give me excuses. Do you think I'm not aware of what you're doing? You sneak out before I wake up, thinking you can escape your responsibilities as my children. But today, you're not escaping. Today, you will hear me out. May and Leo tried to argue, but Agnes raised her hand to silence them. You think money is everything, don't you? She asked, her voice filled with emotion. You think that as long as you fill my bank account and stock the house with food, you're doing your duty as children, but you're wrong. Do you have any idea how lonely I am in this big house? Do you know the pain of watching your own children treat you like a stranger? Her voice cracked, and tears welled up in her eyes. I raised you both with so much love. I sacrificed everything to make sure you had a good life. And now, you can't even spare a moment to sit and talk to me. Do you think that's fair? May and Leo stood in stunned silence, guilt washing over them. They had never considered how deeply their actions were hurting their mother. Agnes wasn't done. She looked at them, her eyes blazing with a mix of sadness and resolve. If you can't appreciate the love I've given you, then give me back the breast milk you sucked when you were babies. Return it to me now. May and Leo's eyes widened in shock. Mom, what are you talking about? Leo stammered. I mean it, Agnes said. Vomit the breast milk now, or we'll stay locked in this house for weeks. You have no idea how much I suffered to raise you. If you can't respect me as your mother, then give back what you took from me. May and Leo realized she was serious. They tried to reason with her, but Agnes stood her ground. With no other option, they knelt down, pretending to vomit the milk, hoping it would appease her. When they finally stopped, exhausted and tearful, they looked up at their mother. "We're sorry, Mom," May said, her voice breaking. "We've been so selfish. We didn't realize how much we were hurting you. Please forgive us." Leo nodded, tears streaming down his face. "We promise to do better. We'll be here for you from now on. You won't be lonely anymore." Agnes' heart softened as she saw their sincerity. She reached out and pulled them into a tight embrace. "I forgive you," she said, her voice full of love. "All I've ever wanted is to spend time with you. Promise me you'll never neglect me like this again." "We promise," they said in unison. From that day on, May and Leo kept their word. They rearranged their schedules, making time to be with their mother. They shared meals, laughed together, and brought warmth back into the mansion. Agnes was no longer lonely, and the bond between them grew stronger than ever. They lived happily ever after, proving that no amount of money or success can replace the love and presence of family. Moral lessons. 1. Family is priceless. No material wealth can replace the love and presence of your family. Number 2. Cherish your parents. They sacrificed so much for you. Don't take their love for granted. 3. Communication is key. Always listen and make time for your loved ones, no matter how busy life gets. Thank you for reading this story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more engaging stories. Let's keep sharing these lessons and making the world a better place.